Hello there, this is SKoggul. I'm doing another FOE Training Grounds game. And before we really get into this game, I'm going to pause it here and talk about the first theme of this game and why Riven's mid. Riven is not typically a mid. Riven is a top laner, and the way the pick order goes is you have a first pick and then the other team gets the last pick. So the last pick can be a counter pick. And in this game, they take Mord to go against Ahri in the mid, and they thought they had Jarvan against Riven. So what they switched up was Ahri went top because Ahri's extremely mobile and can get back to that tower and is a fairly safe top laner, even though she's generally mid. And Riven has the mobility and the attack damage to jump all over a Mordekaiser with his low mobility and pick and choose when to trade and when to go for fights. Well, Mordekaiser can't really chase Riven, Mordekaiser can't lock her down, and Mord can't do anything about it. Mord just takes a lot of damage. So Ahri Jarvan becomes an even lane, and Riven has a distinct advantage over Mord. So that's kind of our first principle. We'll go over that a little bit more in detail in the review. And that is why we're seeing Riven here, is they picked before, they tried to counter pick by putting Mord against Ahri, and they just lane swapped to stop the counter. So that's what that is, and now let's check our champions. So we have 86 attack damage, meaning reds and quints. We have the 6 and 10% armor pen, meaning you're 21 deep basically into the offensive tree. And it looks like no boost in movement speed and doesn't have mana, so that would be 9 into defense. So you're looking at a 2190 for masteries, and you're checking out almost all attack damage and maybe some defense resistances out of the runes. And that is with Flash Ignite, fairly typical, and that is Riven. So let's go to their not fairly typical jungle. It is Rumble on the Rumble in the Jungle skin, so I guess that's why he jungles. Sorry, bad joke. Anyhow, Rumble has quite a bit of armor, but that is because he's running cloth. He's running a lot of AP. He's got the 10% spell penetration, the 4% cooldown. He's sitting at 32 ability power, 54 armor, but 18 of that is straight up from that. So he's at least 9 into the defense tree, and he's using yellow armors, probably blue magic resist, maybe cooldown. Let me see, no, not cooldown. Blue magic resist per level. And if he's 21 deep, he's mostly on the ability power side of the offensive tree. So let's check out the enemy jungler, Lee Sin. What does Lee Sin do? Lee Sin can jump on you with his Q, can warp to you, he can then jump back to a minion or teammate, or just give himself a shield. He can slow you with his cripple. He's got quite a few cool abilities and combos. And so Lee Sin is a fairly standard jungler. He duels well, he ganks well, he clears well. He's 21 deep into offense because of the 6 flat armor pen, the 3% lifesteal. He's got 375 movement, which he might be one of those 325 bases. And he's got quite a bit of armor and magic resist, and he started boot, so he's likely running flat magic resist blues, flat yellow armors, and has some points into the defense tree, so he's probably 2190. And let's check out the last guy, Mordekaiser on Pentakill Mordekaiser. I like this skin. I would have done him if he would have had teaching points. He really didn't. He has 15 spell pen. That is, your quints and your marks are spell pen. He's at least 9 into the offensive tree because 10% spell pen and the cooldown. Doesn't look like he's farther than that, or he would either have a lot more ability power or something different. That looks like he is running into, he's got boosted movement speed, so he's probably running 21 into defense and taking that initiator is why he's looking at the 315. So he has 49 magic resist, which will not help him against Riven. Unfortunately for him, he has 33 armor and uses yellows and armors. If he would have used that in something like health regen, he could be in a lot of trouble in this lane. So that is where we're at. I'm going to unpause it, and we're going to speed it up because this early game you don't really see the advantage until level 3 and 4, what Riven has, and that's the mobility and the ability to dictate when the trades happen. Right now at level 1 and 2 and maybe even early 3, Mord has this ability to poke. That's a little bit hard for Riven, but that will be countered really quick with the mobility that Riven will show. Is that by the time Mord's able to get his skills leveled up to do enough damage to really hurt her, Riven is going to be able to jump all around. Here's the gank, but Riven has such high mobility that she can easily get back to a tower, and it's not really a threat to gank Riven in the mid lane. So if you can ever take Riven and get that swap and you have a mobile top laner, Riven does a great job in the mid lane because she's basically ungankable with all those jumps. It's just she can get back to her tower so fast. She has a shield. That makes ganking very, very hard to do. And up top, they're going to be able to take out Jarvan with a gank. Wasn't too difficult of a task for them. They have quite a bit of mobility and CC combined, and Lee Sin runs in late and gets Rumble a double kill. So at this point in the game, you would know your jungler's fairly fed and their jungler is behind. So that's a good thing when you're mid, is you know that if your jungler's going to invade, you can win invasions. If they want to pick you off and protect their jungler and your team responds well, you can win that. And there's the beginning of the trading. She had the shield up, so it wasn't like she was about to take too much damage. And she's able to jump on and do quite a bit of damage to Mord, who uses his health to farm and to use his abilities. So it's really hard on Mordekaiser when you can keep poking at him and trading with him. He doesn't like it, puts him behind. It makes farming difficult and life difficult in general. He does have quite a bit of health regen, but he has to stay way back and can't play this aggressive push to your tower and deny style that Mordekaiser can do in a lot of games, because he just can't. And with your ability to stun, jump in, stun, jump out, it's just really a hard hit for Mordekaiser to really deal with. It would have been impossible in the top lane, and Mordekaiser can't really do a lane swap with Jarvan, because if they swapped Riven back, Riven would just be able to kill him if he crossed the river. He wouldn't even get out of it. And so that's what the trades are doing for Riven, and Riven, they were about even at about 36, and now Riven's starting to pull ahead. She's going to go buy 3 Doran's Blades, or 2 more Doran's Blades, and get those boots. And always buy wards. Always, always, always buy wards. And really quick, I'm going to stop this for a second, but they have the Wraith ward, and then they catch Lee Sin doing the red buff, and since your jungler's fed and can fight theirs, you want to respond and go invade with him. So it looks like he's in trouble here, but Riven's going to show up, hit her ultimate, and run in, and as Lee Sin tries to go help protect, and hopefully they were hoping they'd get Rumble, they give Riven the triple kill. So let's go back and show it. I'll show it at normal speed until she gets close, and then we're going to slow this down. So she's using all her mobility and her jumps to just get in range, and she knows that Rumble's going to need help here in just a second. So about at this point right here, she's going to use her ult. When you use your ult on Riven, I know the fire off is what people remember, but you get a sustained buff and damage for a little bit of time. And so that's why you use it a little early before you use your abilities, and your abilities do more damage, and you can do a lot of deceiving damage really quick. And so her second reward, besides the triple kill for responding to her teammate invasion, is the fact that they stopped the red buff getting done, and Rumble passes on this red buff to Riven, so Riven gets that extra gold, the extra experience, and the red buff. So running out to lane, Mordekaiser was already afraid. Now it's Riven with red buff, and that kind of just sucks for Mordekaiser. He can't get caught at all because of the CC involved, and she's just going to climb farther and farther ahead in this CC lead. They've got that camp on the ward by the Wraiths, and so they can see whenever Lee Sin goes to do that. If Mordekaiser goes to do that, they can see if it's up, if they want to go get the steals. And so that they're basically going to be able to force Mord to stay as far back as possible. He's missing quite a bit of CS over and over. She's letting that big minion just go wreck her waves without killing it until it gets extremely low. She doesn't want to lose the gold on it, but she wants the lane to be pushing back towards her tower. So here there's only 3 left for her, so they're going to melt pretty quick. And she doesn't want it to hit the tower, she just wants it to go past the river, and so that Mord doesn't dare go farm these or even get the experience for them. He has to sit back a ways. So she tanks it herself until the wave comes, and she did it with a shield, so she didn't even lose life. And there's quite a few champions that have the ability to shield tank those. And this is what happens when Mord leaves, is how much damage can she throw out really quick. And for just coming to try to get 1 CS, he loses about 1/3 of his life, and that was with an immediate back off. Had he stayed to finish the CS, it would have been even worse. And so she's able to, every time she doesn't need to be blocking it herself or actually hitting something for the last hit, she can just go make sure Mordekaiser has to stay back and keep zoning him and rezoning him. And her lead's getting quite substantial. It's now 77 to 58. So that's all that's happening here. Is just the beginning of the denial against Mordekaiser, and he has to just stand way back. If he comes out, especially if Rumble comes to gank, who's pretty fed, and Riven's pretty fed, he can't possibly even just take Riven, let alone if a gank happened and he was out of position, there'd be nothing he could do, and he has to give up wave after wave of experience and everything. And here they were able to get pick off Ezreal, but Lee Sin goes to the golems, and Rumble follows up and gets a fairly easy kill here. And there's not much that they can do. I don't know why Lee Sin keeps turning around to make sure he takes those abilities, but there goes Riven respawning, but it's too late, and Rumble takes too much damage from the turret, and he's going to go down. So that's all that happens there. But Riven was respawning. She was ready to come. She's going to go start taking the race and get another ward back into their jungle so they can see exactly what's going on with their opponents. It gives you so much insight. The Wraith camp is the most uncamped, so that is why that's a good ward. There's a few other ideas, in my opinion, of places you can ward as a mid to keep yourself safe without buying 4 to 5 wards to surround yourself, which gets really expensive to keep up. But with just 1 or 2 wards, I believe there's a few things you can do to make it better for your whole team. And your jungler, if he's going to be buying wards, should be helping you a little bit. At least giving you a couple wards a game out in certain areas that can help you. And so Riven's going to go base. She had enough for her Bloodthirster because of the triple kill and just the free farming she's able to get. She's up 40 CS now. And sorry about that. Let's go back and see what happened. So, what happens is Jarvan, like I said, is not behind. He kills Ahri. And at this point, they have all the wards in the jungle, and every time they are to catch out someone from blue team, they're going to go for it. And so, Caitlyn kites around. She can't take Riven, but she can try to get away. And Lee Sin gets caught again, kicking back. Ezreal's not going to do anything with the level 11 Riven right on you, who can do a ton of damage. And they go for this kill on Caitlyn, but they go too deep. And this is a mistake people that start winning make, is they go way too deep and they go into the base. And even a level 5 Blitzcrank with his tools can make sure you're caught. And she went to escape, but with Jarvan, there's nothing she could do, and she goes for that kill on Caitlyn once she knew she had no escape. So that's what you do when there is no escape at all. And Rumble's going to be diving over here. And at this point, they're just playing this really dangerous game, going between towers, taking advantage of their lead. You can do that when you're far enough ahead. There's not that big of a risk of a comeback, although Jarvan is fairly strong. Jarvan's not a super carry, and he's not anything you really have to be afraid of. You don't want to underestimate him and say he can't do anything, but Jarvan's not going to be the champion who can just destroy your team by himself. So you're able to just keep Mord zoned with this type of a lead, and this is what the counter picking and the lane swapping is able to do for you. There's not much they can do about it. There's going to be one more fight in this game that will show, and she can use all her dashes to get away from Lee Sin, to dodge the Blitzcrank grab, and with all that lifesteal from triple Dorans and a Bloodthirster, that didn't even really matter. It's not really hurting her. She can kind of do what she wants, and it takes 3 of them to do anything. When you're trying to take wards down, even with an Oracles or a pink ward against Blitzcrank, realize he could be ward baiting you and trying to do that, trying to grab you just like that. So be ready to dodge or get out if something bad happens while you're killing a ward, as they can see you, so they can use abilities like the grab on you. And they can just get uncontested dragons. They could basically go contest all 4 buffs if they wanted to rush over to the other team's blue. They could at least contest it. There's not much that blue team can do about it if they show up and are trying to take stuff. Any objective other than Baron they want is pretty much a free objective for them at this point in the game. They're ahead in every lane except for Jarvan and Ahri, and that's more even than Jarvan's winning. It's not bad for Ahri right now. She's fine. She's behind a little bit, but she's fine, and she carries harder. She scales better and does more late game than Jarvan does. So for your team, you're basically ahead or even in all lanes. Way ahead out of your bottom lane, way ahead out of your mid. And so we're just going to speed up and get to this last fight, another jungle fight. Now they're going to start playing in this jungle again. This game is kind of pivoted around this bottom jungle, the good warding from purple side, and the getting caught in your own jungle by blue side once the other team has control of it. So Blitz comes out and he uses his move speed to chase after Riven, and so that was his one possible escape, is used right here, hoping to catch out Riven. And then you get Rumble locking down. He's got the Rylus on top of his ult that slows, on top of his E's that slow, and that's gonna get you into that. Lee Sin's getting chased down, and she is able to just do a ton of damage to Mordekaiser, use her Bloodthirster, steal back a lot of the life, and she's taking damage, but she doesn't really care. And this fight's going to go really well for purple team in some ways. They do lose people. Mord goes down, and there goes Riven, but they've got Jarvan caught where he's not going to escape, and Ahri gets a kill, and Ahri gets the double kill. And so now your Ahri that was a little behind is no longer behind. She got the shutdown kill on Jarvan. She just picked up the 2nd kill onto Caitlyn, who's not worth that much, but that's going to make sure that Ahri's not behind. And that's going to be the end of this game. They take the next tower. It's a quick surrender after this. It does not last very much longer, and I will talk to you in the review. Alright, it's review time, and let's start off with number 1, the lane swap. That's pretty much the story of the game. It's what happened is now you see Ahri up top against Jarvan, and you see Mordekaiser versus Riven, instead of seeing it where it was Mordekaiser versus Ahri and Riven versus Jarvan. And this puts Mord at a pretty strong disadvantage. If he were to try to swap back, he does not have any escape tools in his kit, and he'd be super gankable. They'd have no problem getting rid of him or killing him, and he probably takes Mordekaiser after Ahri is picked, saying I can farm up and get really strong, where in fact he can't, because Riven has all her abilities to jump all over him, and he took magic resist and she does AD. She's got the broken wings that has 3 jumps, she's got key burst for a stun and more damage, and she's got her other Valor, which has a jump, and then Blade of the Exile lets her do a huge burst of damage all at once. And so that lane swap puts it so that Ahri and Jarvan are about the same pace, and Mord just got hard countered. Even though they didn't pick a counter to him, he got countered just by the lane swap. And you can see Mace of Spades, Creeping Death does more damage, kind of a shield that does damage, and Siphon of Destruction, Children of the Grave. Nothing's going to help him survive if he goes up top. 2. Trading. And when you want to learn to trade is when you can either get in and get out, or so you decide when the trades are, but it's basically when you're going to start winning trades. So even though Riven was hurt before the trade started, she's able to put that same hurt on Mordekaiser and come out ahead over and over again, because by the time he can throw a shield up and do his stuff, she can just bounce away because of all her stuff. She can wait for it to end and just keep going on him. And once you do that enough and you keep trading over and over again, you will be able to start winning your lane and zoning them, and therefore denying them CS and getting yourself to quite the advantage by the time you get to the team fighting stage. So you can just see how much the time, and you can see how much her abilities go, and you can see what she does. She likes to get in with a couple of her Qs, not all of them, hit W to stun, and then E back away so that she can keep farming and be safe on her side. And she just kind of repeats the process. She Qs in, her W is about to get up, she can close the gap with her Qs, hit W, do damage, E away, and she has a shield while she's retreating. And that any damage that's a chasing damage will kind of hit the shield, and she'll negate quite a bit of it. And she's just able to do it over and over again because of that combo. That's what she does to win trades. That's what how Riven trades. And if you keep trading, you'll keep them zoned. Number 3, counter picking and denial. And this is when, once you're ahead, you've got to start using your denial tactics, which means let the lane push out past the midpoint so that he has to make a decision. Can I fight her if I come farm, or do I have to just stand back? And in this case, Mord knows he can't fight Riven, and he just stays all the way back. And she's going to hear it's past the river the other way, and Mord can farm some. The problem with Mord is he does so much AoE damage that tank minion is now just going to blast away and wreck this lane and push it right back towards her tower. And as long as she never lets it actually hit the tower, she can freeze it on the other half of the lane. And there's nothing Mord can do about it, because all his AoE damage makes it extremely difficult to last hit without pushing the wave, and Riven can kill him if he goes past the river and stays. He just has to turn and run. He has no escape tool, so he has no choice but to get out as fast as he can. And it's going to allow Riven to really get him locked down and go from an even lane to a huge advantage, because she can force trades every time he wants to do anything about it. So instead of farming with his tools, he's just running away, and she can just rinse and repeat, do it again and again, because every time that Mord tries anything, it will push the lane. And so there's 39 to 36 at 547, and we'll just see what happens as she keeps it on that side of the river and where the midpoint is, and if you keep it on your side, then he's a long ways away from his tower, and it makes it hard for him. And you can see that he's only up to 62 10 minutes in, and he's at 95 to 132 at 15 minutes in. And so she's able to really get a pretty decent advantage, besides the fact she was getting kills. Number 4, invading their jungle. And you don't want to invade their jungle. You either want to do it when you have vision of them or when you are winning. And so right now your jungler is winning, your bottom lane is winning, and she's the mid laner, and the mid lane's winning. And so you're able to go in and make plays and be stronger than them. The problem with invading their jungle is you really don't have an escape. But when you can just win the fights because you're stronger in those 4 positions, there's nothing they can do about it. So here she's going to come in, use her ult, get there in time to save Rumble and to get that attack off and to kill 2 people with her 1 move, and turn around and kill Blitzcrank just a second later for the triple kill. So what happens is you need that vision, or once Rumble was ahead and Riven was ahead, they knew that even if Mord came, it didn't matter. They're just ahead, and they're able to take kills and objectives every time they catch him there. And throughout this game, they keep warding deep into this side of the jungle. So what happened here was he went to check right at 8 minutes when everything's respawning. The red buff catches him just under 8 minutes. It's 7:23, I guess. So that's when red buff would respawn if you took it right away. And they catch him, so Riven comes, and so does the bottom lane for the blue side. But Riven and Rumble are so far ahead right now that they're just turn it into a giant killing fest, and it's a triple kill for Riven, and they can't do anything to stop it. The next time this happens, you're going to see that Riven respawns right away and goes into the jungle, but Rumble had already pulled off. They'd already killed all 3 people, the jungler and the bottom lane, and Rumble had unfortunately died to the tower. And also, you can steal the red buff, and at this point you control their objectives in that jungle, and they controlled that objective in that jungle this entire game. So she's heading in to help the play, but when she gets there, Rumble had already died, and that was over. So 5 is the Wraith ward, and I talked about the side ward in a previous video. The Wraith ward, from a lot of 2K Elo people, they'll say that this ward gives you more information about the other team than any other ward. It can show when the mid's doing, it will catch the mid trying to go down and avoid the river and go down to gank bottom. If mid's MIA and you don't see them there or in the river wards, then they're probably top. You can keep really high tabs on their jungler because that is the most done camp. You'll also see when it's up and when you can steal their jungle as often as possible without walking into a trap, and it just does so much. You're able to spot Lee Sin, you're able to spot Mordekaiser, and that one ward you will catch them and spot them and be able to make appropriate decisions based off that repeatedly because that camp spawns so quickly. And so you can tell here that Mord isn't coming because he's scared of you, and you can continue the dive because Mord turned around and went back to his tower, and because you have that Wraith ward, they can't follow you to that fight, or if they do, you'll see it coming. And so that is what the ward accomplishes, is you have this great vision of where they're at. You can chase them off the fights, you can dive, you can do different things because you have superior map control to them based on the one ward. 6, diving. And in this dive, it goes pretty bad, and she gets too far extended. They do get kills before she gets too far extended. The overall trade wasn't terrible, but the big problem is she'll get herself killed at the end of this dive. Now, the first tower's down, so there's no dive yet. At this point, you're still fine. This is a safe play. Lee Sin gets himself killed, but they dive Caitlyn. Riven was ready to go back, but with 3 teammates, they felt like they could do a full dive. And they would have been correct other than she makes it past the second tower. There's the True Shot Barrage. And going into this last tower, I know Blitzcrank is extremely behind, but he still has the tools to make sure you can't get out of there. The grab, the pop-up, you've now taken just a ton of damage, and Jarvan is not behind. So the only thing you can do is turn around and go after Caitlyn. And that is kind of what I was showing there. So the first thing is they decided to dive because they burst off half her life basically immediately. And so that's where the decision comes from. You could see how low Caitlyn is, but now you're past one tower and going past the second tower, and that's when it's time to turn around. But unfortunately, Blitzcrank gets there. Even without his ultimate, he has enough CC that you can't avoid to pull you into the base. Jarvan's there, and the only choice you have is death, and so she went for the Caitlyn to try to get that kill, but at that point it was too late. And that is the problem with diving. Once you get past that first tower, if they get to the second one, most of the time you should make the conscious decision to let them go. And Jarvan picks up a kill. He's not doing bad in this game. His team was. 7, free objectives. This one's pretty short, but this is game-changing and game-telling. Their whole team is up. No one's dead. They're not out pushing lanes. And you're still able to just walk over and pick up a dragon uncontested. Now, dragon and baron and blue and red buffs don't decide the game. It's the turrets, but they help you get in control where you can then take turrets. They give you major objectives when your whole team can get that far ahead. So as you can see, all 5 champions are up. You can even see that the ultimate and summoner spells are up on quite a few of these champions. And so there is no real reason, if they were even at all, that they couldn't come fight that. But instead it's a free objective because they had lost bottom and mid so hard that Dragon's free even though there are no kills on the map. And that's just something to consider. Can they stop you at Baron? No, you're that far ahead, you can take Baron for free. 8, battling past the turret. Now this isn't always a good idea and it can get them right back in the game. So they did catch out Blitzcrank. He used his speed buff to try to chase out Riven and instead gets himself killed because then when they turn around Yeah, you'll see him burst in, burst out, and now he has nothing to get away from Rumble. And Rumble's able to land the CC, and here's the split chase. And what happens is some of them go for Lee Sin, and Riven and Tarek go for Mord. And Mord's gonna go behind the towers. So when you're battling past their turrets like this, if you happen to win the fight, it is very disheartening, and you'll probably get 20 to 25 minute surrenders. But on the other hand, look at the damage they take. If this had been a fight out in the open, they would have gone 5 or 0. Instead, Riven goes down, and Ezreal's going to go down here. And the reason that happens is simply that those towers were doing so much damage. But they killed all 5 of them. They killed Blitzcrank first, and they are able to keep killing all the way until every last member has been killed. And when you're behind your towers and they're diving way deep into your base and they are able to split you up, chase you down, and then kill you under, this is a 1v2 under in between 2 up towers, and they're able to go 5-2 in the thing. If you pull that off, you're in their head so much, they're fighting, they know this game is over. Their surrender votes will happen whether they succeed or it's just a 3-2 or whatever. You're already in their head and you can get those surrender votes starting. I'm not advising that you go start this, but once you're ahead and can pull it off and win the fight for sure, it will basically spell the end. Anyhow, I hope you learned something from this. Good luck in your future matches, and try the lane swap thing. It works. Take care.